have a quorum, so we can have an official meeting and get started. I will ask if anyone in the meeting has any conflict of interest with anything we're reviewing today. And I'm not seeing anyone in the room or any hands raised online, so we should be okay with that. Let's see, do attendance, yes? You want to do attendance, or do you do it just virtually now? You do announcements?
Well, we go around the room, and
Okay.
then we can mention the people that are on.
Okay, Ms. Vinacore, start, please.
Yes, Dr. Lori Vinacore from the Alliance of Delray Residential Associations.
Sherry Brown, Budget Advisory Committee.
Paul Dumars, school board member.
You have to turn your mic on, George. Is it on?
The green light, yeah.
There you go.
Okay, George L. Moore, committee member.
Bill Sanchez, Chief Operating Officer.
David Porter, representing Construction Oversight and Review Committee.
Leanne Evans, treasurer.
David Dolan, Chief of Facilities Management for the school district.
Heather Frederick, Chief Financial Officer.
Erica Whitfield, excuse me, one of the school board members. Thank you.
Eddie Rhodes, Glaze Tri-City Education Committee.
Kristen Vara, Office of the General Counsel.
Okay, and online, I'm just going to go through the committee members that are online. Radcliffe Brown has joined us virtually. Salvatore Manuel has joined us virtually. Rick Miller has joined virtually, and Karen Brill, one of our school board members, is also online virtual. Did I miss any other committee members that have joined virtually? Okay, I think that's it, and we do have a quorum.
Okay. I don't have any other announcements. Do we have any public comments? Two public members. All right, seeing none, we will continue on. Items for approval. Minutes. Anyone have any issues with the minutes?
And you have a hard copy in front of you, and they were sent out in advance.
Yep.
Move the approval, no necessary corrections.
Okay. Second on approving the minutes? Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. I guess I'll ask
Aye.
if there's any objections, that makes it easier. Okay. Leanne, on to you, sales tax summary.
Okay, so as in the past, we have this presentation to summarize everything. So sales tax revenues continue to come in ahead of projection. I have that as a recording in my office. It just keeps coming in ahead of the projections. We did cross a big threshold, over $1 billion in revenues at this point, so $1.025 billion. As the original projection was $822 million for this time frame. So we're almost 125% of projections. We've collected 76% of the total receipts, where we had projected to have about 64%. So as I've mentioned before, I will bring this up at each meeting as we continue to update it, but we are projecting that we will trigger the sunset provision and end the tax a year early. So that's something we'll continue to monitor. Expenses and interest earnings, sales tax expenses, there was a big increase in June. We always have a big increase in June because we ask the contractors, it's the end of our fiscal year, so we ask them to send in all the bills for work completed through June, even if it's estimates, so that number is very high. When we add the July numbers in, the July numbers will actually be negative because we're waiting for those bills to actually come in, and by August it looks normal again. So I try never to publish it just at the end of July. We haven't closed July yet, so, but we always wait and time these meetings, so you see it as of the end of June and end of September. Open purchase orders, oh, go ahead, did you have a question?
Yeah, do you have a projection you're willing to kind of throw out there as to how much more money we might receive by the end than we were thinking we would get?
It's about $200 million, and we have a proposed plan modification to address that later on in the
Oh,
presentation,
okay,
so
good.
we'll talk about that. Open purchase orders as of the end of June was $144 million. Interest earnings, to date, it's $23 million. We had a big year for interest earnings this year. It's what happens when the Federal Reserve raises interest rates significantly like they have done. The fees associated with the line of credit, $485,000. I want to mention the final payment was done in July. So the total paid for fees on line of credit was $487,000. So that is now gone. We don't need it. The purpose of that line of credit was to have it there for budgetary purposes and allow construction to go as fast as they could. We wanted to expedite it. At this point, we have enough cash to fund anything they want to do. When they want to move projects up, we are there, and I know, I have to be very careful with the construction folks in the room. Yeah. And fund their projects. So sales tax, it's looking really good. This is the summary. It shows the original referendum project budgets and then the total. And right here, you will see that overall, the sales tax projection was 1.3 million. Now it's 1.5 billion. It's an increase of 223 million. Part of that is due to interest earnings. Part of it is because we've shifted projects around. But the net is an increased revenue of 223 million in sales tax. So this is tracking everything, the total expenditures, total purchase orders. This is just a snapshot. It really is a roll-up of these project budget reports. This slide actually is mimicked on the front page of your project budget reports that are available on the website, if you ever want to dig into them. So project by project, we show for each one, the original referendum list, what it was at the last meeting, the current meeting, and any change, cumulative change. And then the next page continues on to show what's been funded thus far through FY '24, the total future funding to come up with the total project budget, expenses to date, and total purchase orders. So you can drill through all 29 pages of this at your leisure, but this is a good summary of it right on the front page of in our presentation. Are there any questions through this point? Because otherwise, I'm going to turn it over to Dave Dolan to talk about the proposed changes that we have for this meeting. Mr. Dolan,
Okay.
take it away.
All right, so I often like to start with something good, and so that's our first 4 PPMs are, we are closing projects out, completely fiscally closed and done, addressed all the concerns, and are returning funds back to the reserves. And you can see there's quite a good amount in those 4. And not to say that that will continue to be a trend, but I can say, with Ms. Evans last night, I signed 4 more yesterday that we're bringing back in addition to these that didn't show up on this report for another $2.6 million. So,
Right. The first year's projects,
yeah.
we weren't dealing with cost escalation, and a lot of them did come in under budget. So we'll see a lot of these come through. Well, I don't know if it's a lot, but we're going to see several of them come through over the next couple of meetings as they close out that first batch of projects. Then that's going to really drop down, and instead, we're going to be adding money to projects.
Correct.
And we always said some would come in over and some would come in under.
Right. Yes, sir.
For Verde, aren't we open for this now second school year of that building? Isn't it the second school year we've been
Third.
done? Third. Was there a reason why it's so long after finishing the job and occupying it that we're
Well,
getting?
there are a number of reasons. I don't want to say that we live in a perfect world, but there are a number of reasons, and there were some items that are left open for an extended period of time. And in some of our circumstances, maybe not with Verdi, but with some of our other ones, we might even have pull-out projects. And for the rest of your, like a pull-out project, if we have a main project where we have a hire contractor and he's working on 15 disciplines, we also might pull out some other smaller pieces and give them directly to term vendors. And so those are little purchase orders that are part of this referendum. And sometimes we have to kind of get around to sweeping those and clearing those up.
And I would add, on Verity, it's a modernization, and so we had to get all the as-built documents, all the release of liens, all the behind the scenes, so we have all the documents knowing how the school was built. So those do take a little while. As finance person, I'd like them to close sooner. We have this conversation all the time, but there's a lot of work that has to be done before they can close the projects out.
Okay.
Yeah, and that, as Ms. Evans says, on the closeouts, we're actually seeing a dramatic increase. We've changed some of our systems to try to make sure that there's lots of arms working on that, on the referendum as a whole, and we're bringing in everybody together to make sure we have a finite time to get these projects closed out.
Okay. Good.
Okay, the next two, Pine Grove. Pine Grove is under construction now. This is simply the increase in the budget for that final GMP. It is a considerable increase, but commensurate with what the market is holding compared to our original project budgets when that referendum project was established. Sandpiper Shores is also an increase to that project for basically shortfalls in some critical large ticket items, if you will. Roof replacements, you've heard me talk about this in the past. What the cost of a roof was 5 years ago versus what it seems to cost now in the industry is considerably greater. We have some other life safety measures that we had to implement and needed additional funding, and as well, building envelope, which for everybody remember, building envelope are windows, doors, roof patching, a lot of the sealing of the shell of the building to make sure that we can maintain a positive environment inside. Those are critical must-haves, and we needed additional funds on that. Okay. And then the last four are projects that are, I'll just say that are on the way. They're about to either move into design or in some cases they're about to move into construction. And we've recognized during the capital budget planning process the needs for additional funds. There's a couple of transportation facilities that as we've scoped out the projects and realized that we were considerably under budget on the original referendum, hence the $10 million increases for both of those. And Winbrook is another modernization, not unlike Pine Grove, where we're anticipating a need for additional funds to bring that final GMP in. And then Historic Roosevelt, where that's another project that we have been working towards. This is the phase one portion, the adult education facilities. And as we were working our way through, the costs did increase by, I think it's 20%. Yes, sir.
The budgets that were over, those were established 8 years ago, whenever the referendum was done.
Yeah,
So that was prior,
2016.
that was prior to any construction inflation at all
Correct.
hitting us.
Yeah, and we've gotten some feedback from the industry, E&R and some other industry standards that have identified that. One of the statements I'd seen recently was that any budgets that were established prior to 2020, before the COVID, before the pandemic, are really not in line with what today's project costs are going to be. So
Right.
a lot of those are circumstances we're encountering now.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up for everybody's point, because we're saying, okay, 10 million over budget, that's like doubling the budget from what we thought it would be, but it's doubling a budget that's no longer reality.
Correct.
That's
Sanchez?
something, yeah. Because 190 through 193, we don't have GMPs on any of those yet, right?
No.
So these are not the final numbers, right?
That is correct. And as Mr. Sanchez is referring, you can see they're nice round numbers like 10 million even, 6,250,000, as opposed to the ones above where you can see it's 0.22 cents. So we're anticipating a range that we stay within.
These were estimates. These are estimates that were included in the capital plan, so they very much estimates, and again, that's why we broke them out.
Just wanted to make that clear, so in case we need to come back.
It's possible we could come back, yes.
Can I ask a question, please,
Yes.
before you move on? Thank you. So this is through the chair to Mr. Sanchez. For the historic Roosevelt remodeling, I spoke to the superintendent, sorry about my dog, yesterday about some potential increases in what we're going to spend. Is it going to come out of the capital budget or out of these dollars, these funds?
Well, the source of funding is really a Leanne question. So, but just to be clear, so everybody is on the same page, what's on the screen right now, 193 is Historic Roosevelt addition and remodeling. This is phase one of the project. We had a meeting this week with the community that talked about phase two, which is building of a renovation and/or replacement of the existing buildings on the east side of the campus would be Phase 2. And that has a budget of somewhere between 24 and 20, or 25 and $28 million at this time. And we're looking for partners, either the county, the city, or both, plus outside funding sources, potential private donors to help support that, to build a historic African-American museum and research library combination. So Phase 2, there's a possibility that the school district may contribute some cost or some dollars towards Phase 2. That has not been determined yet, and which funding source we would use to pay for that. It's probably, I'll leave that to Leanne to.
Well, yeah,
If
it
I
would,
could just add before Leanne jumps in, my understanding is we may be fast tracking some of that, Mr. Sanchez, from my
That would be
conversation. But
great.
we'll just wait and see
Okay.
how that all plays out. My understanding is that some of that Phase 2 may be pushed up time-wise. So I guess we'll wait to see what the superintendent also comes back with.
okay, so that, just to circle back, what we're now referring to as Phase 1, that was on the referendum project list. It was originally intended to be funded with sales tax. We came to the committee and said, it's going to be much larger than we thought. It's not just a facility renewal. So instead, we're going to fund that with a borrowing. So it's going to be in a COPS issue that we're planning to do in February now. So we will be borrowing money for this. When it gets to Phase 2, I think there's a lot of questions. If anything we're contributing would most likely be coming from the capital budget, not from sales tax. That was not included in the referendum list.
Question,
Yes,
question.
who's got the question?
Yes, maybe it's not the time and place, but I was looking at the closeout, project closeout. The schools in the Glaze that you guys, that we started to work on, which some of the work is not complete, that wouldn't be included in this particular section, would it?
We're not closing those projects out yet. We're going to come up, there's some more increases coming, I think. This is this is the projects, these are the increases. The projects in the Glades are funded, and in some cases, we have come back for increases in them, for them in the past. There may be increases coming on those. I'm not sure the status of each one of those projects, but we would bring them to the committee as we make changes.
Okay, I saw the word closeout, and I knew that a lot of it not complete, so I was just.
Oh, yeah, these are only sadly,
it's
these are
only
my
4
first
projects.
4.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah, I've got 80 more behind it that
Okay,
I
okay.
I
I
intend
know I'm
to
going to be
bring.
asked certain questions when I get back home, so I want to make sure that I.
Yes, no, yes, as Ms. Evans points out, they are still ongoing.
Gotcha,
Yeah,
okay.
and I just want to clarify, the first one is the modernization project, that it does take a while to close these out. The facility renewals, when we first started, for those of you that have been here for the entire life of this committee, we started out, Bear Lakes had, I think, 17 different projects. There was one for roofing, one for air conditioning, one for plumbing. We've since combined those to where they're all being done. We'll have, most of it's being done as one project with a construction manager, and then there are some that are being managed by maintenance in advance of that. So we've changed the way we're doing projects, but the first one's coming through, it's really not closing out one project, it's closing out 17.
Yeah.
So it does take a while to get all the documents for each one of those projects to close it out. This is closeout of everything that was done at that school, so it's a final closeout for these schools.
And that's why the closeouts will go faster.
Okay.
Now we're dealing
Now
with
we're
one contract.
one contract.
17 contracts.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay.
And PPM 194 is Old Plumosa. That's a project that, as you can see, was revived. It was removed from the capital plan previously, but we have an intent to demolish the old Plumosa campus, and that's part of the new capital plan.
Well, and that was on the referendum list. And we came to you and said, we've got another plan for that facility. We don't want to tear it down right now. And now we're back to the point where we do want to tear it down as quickly as we can. So we've added it back in. The original budget was $2 million. We spent about $15,000, almost $16,000. We just added $2 million back in. So it's a little higher than what the original budget was, but it's very close to what we started with. So we've added that back. So it's a reinstatement to both the referendum project list and to the capital plan.
Is there a plan for what the space will be where the buildings are being torn down? Or is it just going to be grass at this point?
At this point, it is going to be grass. We're going to secure the site to, ensure that it's clean and clear.
Yeah, the original list had them as demolished and land banked.
Oh, okay.
There are a couple of buildings on there that by Castalla, we're not allowed to demolish at this time. So once the demolition is done, there's still going to be, I don't know, 3, 4 buildings
Yeah.
left on the campus.
And they'll be left vacant?
They'll be vacant, but they'll be secured.
Oh,
And in the meantime, we are, as Ms. Sanchez is probably aware, we're going to at least try to go to the state and see if there's a justification for knocking those down as well. A clear site would be most appropriate, so.
okay.
Okay, and then the last 4, these, I guess these are more the ones, I don't know how to explain them, Ms. Evans, but they're back and forth. We might move some of the projects, and you might see them in some of the PPMs. We have some funding in one year, some funding in another year. Some of that funding on a particular project might be a pullout where maintenance is going to do some of the work, and we want that work done earlier, so we'll move some of that money forward, accelerate it, and then in efforts to make sure that we balance our workload with staffing, where you might be moving projects back, or projects that were funded for a given year and we aren't going to get to them, so we'll move them back 1 year. So this is more of a plus and minus of a number of projects.
I actually want to pull up the PPMs for these.
Yeah, there you go.
195, it's shifting $8.2 million back a year. My understanding is they have 2 construction projects for transportation complexes that are starting. They'd like to get those a little further along before they start the 3rd. So it's just timing for.
Yes, learn lessons. We anticipate we're going to figure out the right ways to do things, and the North Transportation Facility is adjacent to our North Tech Revere Beach Prep project. And we want to try to consolidate, make sure we economize on those projects too.
Right, and at Forest Hill High School, we're moving it up by 1 year. We're moving the money up, by 2 years.
Yep.
Want to go ahead and get that done. We were waiting on that. We pushed it back several years, looking to see if we were going to do an addition at Forest Hill High School, if we could get land from the city as part of their golf course renovation. We did get some money for a parking lot.
Yep.
We got a parking lot from them, but really not enough to do a school. And there's a master plan going on about what to do at Forest Hill High School, but the decision was made to go ahead and let's get this parking lot done. I'm sorry, Dave, I'm jumping in because I want to make sure site acquisition, we move this one back.
I think we have a question real quick before we go on.
I have so many questions about the Forest Hill parking lot. I'm curious, is it going to go in that lot across the street from the school?
Yes.
That big space that we have? And then is it just going to be for adults or is it going to be for children? Because we talked about trying to cross that street.
Yeah, we're working on the concept. I don't want to give the committee any convincing data that it's absolutely going to be only for public. We've talked about whether there's alternatives for crosswalks. We're working with the principal, with the school administration to try to come up with a solution for that project. But that's also a part of, as Ms. Evans mentioned, we're actually doing a master plan. We're working with we've got consultants, and we're working with the school to try to work out of a lot of the logistics so we can come up with the bigger long-term plan.
West Palm has no interest in moving the street, I'm guessing.
We still have more opportunities to
Yeah,
discuss that
I think it
with
should be
them.
moved. Is this parking lot money going to be on the south end of the building as well? Is that part getting redone as well, not just the lot across the
The
street?
south end is a separate project.
And it's underway right
It's
now.
underway.
That's
Yeah,
already.
that's
one.
already funded and underway to improve the portion that we received from the golf course.
Okay.
That's the south, right, that's the south side.
Yeah.
Yeah, what we're referring to is the Parker lot to the west.
I know it will. All right, thank
I get a
you.
lot of questions about that, but this project was on the referendum list.
Yeah.
So we keep it separate from the other parking lot.
Okay.
Much to staff's dismay, they'd like to merge it all together, and I said, no, we try to make make very sure that we're following that referendum project list and tracking them separate.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay, site acquisition, they're just, I'm gonna take the rest if it's okay. We're moving the money for site acquisition back a year. They're not ready to determine what land they need to buy, so we're pushing it back a year. That could shift again. As we go through the next capital plan, we may need to shift that back again. This is not actually sales tax money, but it was on the referendum list. So they're trying to determine what they need to buy and when.
Leanne, can you tell me why we would be buying a site?
I don't think they've identified the site.
So there's just money set aside in case we need a site for something?
It's dollars that were on the referendum list that were not funded with actual sales tax. I was going to be borrowing for it. So we haven't borrowed for it yet because they haven't identified what they want.
Yeah.
So as soon as they do, I've got it in the capital plan under borrowing, and I keep shifting it until they can tell me when they need it.
Okay.
But again, it's, normally we don't talk about site acquisition that much, but this was on the referendum list, so I keep tracking it.
Okay.
So we're shifting it back. As soon as planning can tell me what they're ready to do, we'll make sure the money is available for them.
But another reason why we don't typically publish when we
Yes.
interested in buying a site is because then the price starts to jack up around properties that we're interested in. So we're purposely vague about which sites we're interested in.
Does the 10-year capital plan have something that we need land for that we don't own?
There's a couple of schools that are in the outside the 5-year window that we will need to buy land for.
Okay.
But when they look at those schools, they're in year 6 through 10. Some of the schools that are out there, we know the students are coming. There's developments underway, and we know they're coming. Some of the other ones, we're not 100% sure. We don't know how big the campus needs to be. The demographers and the folks in the planning and department, they spend a lot of time trying to project that and figure out where we need to build. Okay, this one I wanted to make sure I brought up, and Dave, you're going to get to talk about it, but I wanted to explain it. This is the list, this is a list of 68 facility renewal projects where money's being moved up or back. And years ago, this committee told me they were comfortable doing it this way. It's just moving money back and forth. The net for every project is 0. It's just moving things up. There's a few, the first 4 are moving things back, and Dave can talk about that, but most cases, we're moving things up. And it's not entire projects, it's part of it. So maintenance may be doing some air conditioning work ahead of the rest of the project. So it's not changing the whole project, it's moving bits and pieces of it, but there's 68 of them, and it totals 16 million, and
Yeah, or there's a roof repair on a school that needs to be done now, and we don't want to wait 2 years for it to come forward. So we'll just pull forward that portion that needed for the roof. The rest of the scope will remain.
right.
And we're able to do that now because we have the extra influx of cash?
We do.
And the plan was set up where we wouldn't have that influx of cash.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, and the rest of them really are mine. This is good news. During the 23 legislative session, they waived the cost per student station maximums. We still have to report about cost per student station. We still need to be aware of it, but we're no longer required to, the law that says you can't build unless you're within student station cost, that, when we had it last year, we had to agree that we were going to fund part of the debt service out of sales tax. We don't have to do that anymore, and it's for any project underway. So we had $5.4 million set up for debt service payments out of sales tax. We didn't need to use that, so I'm moving it back to sales tax reserve.
So through 2026, we don't have to meet a cost per student station, and we don't
Right.
have to report it? So,
No, we have to report it.
okay, but
We
it's,
still have to report it, and I've seen the legislature take examples of when there were no penalties, and they flash it up to show how much a district went over student station cost. So it's not, I'm the person that always says, it's not a blank check for you to spend as much money as you want, but they're not going to impose penalties and put restrictions on it because they understand costs are a lot higher than they used to be, and their cost factors have no basis, they don't align with actual costs. So they've given us a window of time where we aren't held to those maximums.
well, I know the last 2 or 3 years, because of that penalty, we've cut back on a lot of our design.
Right.
cut back on square footage, cut back on our specs because we had to meet a number.
We changed the way we approach projects. We
Yeah.
can renovate projects without affecting cost per student station instead of building new.
Right.
So we'll spend more money theoretically, to renovate a spot than
I was
to
shocked when I
knock it
read
down and
that
build new.
the legislature actually did this. I
This
thought,
was-
no, it's a typo.
Nope, really happened, really happened.
But as Ms. Evans said, this is not the opportunity to go hog
No.
wild. We are very much still staying, within reason, within logic, and we knowing full well, we'll report, and it will be used against us if we were to egregiously,
Yeah.
move forward.
Right. But it's $5 million back into the sales tax reserve, so that's good news for this committee. The next one, this is just the interest earnings. We had, it's actually $13 million of interest earnings this year, but there was also a mark-to-market adjustment that we had to record. So it's showing up as 12 million in the financial system. It'll reverse itself next year, and we'll see it pop back up again, just the nature of government accounting. But we recorded an additional $12 million in the sales tax fund. So we're still tracking that separately as a separate project. At some point, we no longer have the line of credit. There's no borrowing. That money could be moved into the sales tax reserve. It's convenient for me to have it broken out because it makes it really easy to track everything. But this money could absolutely be used for project increases if we run out of money in sales tax reserve, in the regular sales tax reserve.
Well, this money will eventually get used.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And the last one is the sales tax reserve, and I mentioned earlier that we've gone through as part of the capital plan, and we've updated our projections for sales tax revenues. We are expecting it will end a year early, and I've gone in and updated the projections using actual receipts over the last year. So I'm assuming no growth. I think that's a conservative approach to it. It still could be high or low, but we've updated it, and then that extra money is going into the sales tax reserve. So right now, it's a net, after we take into account all the changes that happened earlier in the meeting that we reflected, it's an increase of 214 million in the sales tax reserve. So there's 143 there right now. 111 will come in next year and 50 the year after that. So we'll continue to monitor this, and every time we do a capital plan, we will update it. We've talked about cost escalation and how that's going to impact the projects. We had estimated about $190 million of cost escalation. This is where it's coming from. So instead of it being behind the scenes, now it's clear and out there. We've actually tapped into we've used about 7.9 million of what we thought we would be using. About 8% of the projects that we were expecting to see deferred work or cost escalation, 8% of them have been awarded. It's used about 4% of the money. So we're under those cost escalation numbers. The fact that they're closing out projects is also helping at the same time. We could have more increases on the transportation projects. Those are funded from sales tax. So there's a lot of things that we're monitoring right now. We'll continue to bring those back to the committee. But I went ahead and bit the bullet. I think it makes the facilities folks a lot happier to see the money instead of it being on a spreadsheet behind the scenes. It's actually in the capital plan now. This is where we think it's going to be.
So out of the 190 million that you've shown us before, that's kind of the estimated extra we might run into, you've used about 7 million of it?
Yes,
That's it?
7.9.
Okay.
That's net of the project increases too, of the project decreases, because they're
Right.
factored in there.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
So that's all the pluses and minuses. We're only 7 million into the 190 estimate.
Right. So it's going well, but they still have a lot of work to do. So I'm not too excited, but I'm happy with the results so far. But again, we've done 8% of the projects. There's still a lot to go. And costs are rising, so I think we're going to see some of that shift as we move forward.
Okay. I have another question. The estimated extra for the bus compounds, was that kind of a fairly decent estimate or a grab it out of the air estimate? Was that actually, like AECom or
The
somebody-
original?
No,
Oh,
the
the
extra
new one?
10 million that we looked at. Was that
Uh,
just a guess, or that was based on some type of rough plan?
I'll tell you.
I was going to say, can I plead the fifth on this one?
I'll tell you, when we were putting together the plan, about escalation with the 190 million. I said we needed to have money in there for construction, and I added 20 million in for bus compounds, and that was
Okay.
me.
Okay.
I'm not a contractor.
fine.
I don't know how to build buildings, but I knew those projects were coming in over budget. So as a
Fine.
finance person, I said, let's plug some money in there for that. We put it in the capital plan. They're still working on it.
One of the things to validate that, there was a recent transportation facility built in another school district in the state of Florida that came in around the $18 million range.
Okay.
Whether that's something that's a valid number now, it was probably about 3 or 4 years ago that it came in at that number. Still to be determined. So that's why we're okay with this number now, but we're still working through it.
My last question, and anybody else can go in. What are you seeing from all the prices coming in over since our last ISOC meeting in terms of, are they stabilizing? Are they continue going up at the same rate? Are they dropping at all?
They are, to a certain extent, stabilizing. We still have massive shortages, material shortages, supply chain issues. And those, long lead items are costing us time. They're costing us money. But got about, we still have shortages in copper, mechanical products, and electrical products, which is quite a bit of the money we spend. So that is definitely affecting us, but we have stabilized on a lot of the other things like aluminum and lumber, and to a certain extent, roofing materials.
How's concrete? Is that stabilized?
It is.
And available more now?
Well, I'll say it's stabilized in price. I'll leave it at that. No, as far as availability, we're still challenged. The providers, the material providers are challenged on having the product, and our contractors are challenged on staffing. Labor is still an issue for our contractors, and will certainly affect us. And I always say that. People ask me, well, what does that matter to you if the contractor can't get the right people? Well, because they're going to pay that guy 1.5 times what he probably should get paid, or I don't know, some other increase beyond what he probably should get paid, and that's going to be passed on through our construction costs. And that's where we're starting to experience some of those numbers continue to rise. Now, it's not rising anywhere near as the last 2 times we've met. They are starting to level off, but still increasing. If we're comparing it to 2020, it's dramatically higher still.
Well, and the labor shortage also makes the jobs go longer, which makes the overhead and profit charge from the contractor go up. So if they can't get it built as quickly, then it means we pay more. Okay. Anyone else with questions on what we just went over, all Leanne and Mr. Dolan presented? Okay. Do you want to do this? Do you want us to give you a vote of everything, since I didn't hear any kind of objections after the questions were taken care of, or rather than going item by item? Well, let's try it this way. Any objections to any of the plan modifications that were presented? I guess we need a motion for that.
I'll motion to approve the proposed plan modifications.
Okay.
Second.
Second on that. All right. Any discussion? All right, do you want to poll people, or we just want to see if there's any objections? You don't need
Just
to
see if
poll.
there's any
Okay.
objection.
Any objections to a unanimous acceptance? Okay, hearing none. The planned modifications presented are accepted.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, this is the slide that this committee has graciously allowed me in the past to come to you and say, over the next 3 months, the 3-month window between now and the next time we meet, we often have projects that may turn out to need a little bit of extra money, and we don't want them to delay until November. So oftentimes I put together the slide and identify approximately what those amounts might be, the projects. Now, it just happens to be, it's the swing, Mr. Porter, as the chair of court, can appreciate, there are swings in some months we'll bring him 3 and 4 construction projects, and then we'll go a month or 2 without many at all. And we seem to be in that lull over the next couple of months where we're not going to see any that will require additional sales tax funds. So at this point, we're just keeping them moving.
But this last line
There we go.
is important. I just showed you 68 projects that money were moved up and back as part of the capital plan. I've already got a request for another one. that's moving some money up for a marquee. I focused on just getting everything from the capital plan because there was a lot of it. But there will be things where maintenance needs to advance money, and it's pulling from sales tax reserve and returning it in the next year. So we will have those as we move forward, and the committee's always been gracious about accepting those as ratifications. It's work that was planned. It's not changing a budget, it's just shifting things from one year to the next. So I know we will have some of those that we'll be bringing back to you next time.
And she's absolutely right. And I'm focusing on a lot of the bigger ones, but as Ms. Evans points out, we have plenty of those smaller ones that will come up, and do appreciate that.
And he's got one for a marquee that he's told me, please get that done. So
Yes, a $56,000 increase. Move forward.
move forward. Okay, project updates. Dave, this is all
All right,
you.
this is the exciting part. I like to see the progress, and I hope you all will appreciate the efforts that have gone on, especially in the summer. You all heard me talk about it over the years, the amount of work that gets done in the summer. The schools are really great because you think, well, the schools are closed. No, there's camps, there's academic programs during the summer, there's feeding programs at schools during the summer, and our schools are always so gracious to allow us to get in there and continue to work. So we get a lot of work done during the summers. As you'll note by some of these photos, if you want to slide, you can scroll through.
Just scroll through them.
Yeah,
Let me know if I need to stop.
the roofs, bathroom work, even exterior painting. You'll see a number of the schools have received, we'll call that waterproofing,
Yes.
but so you can kind of see the efforts that are ongoing, restriping and whatnot, so that when the kids came back, they had a newer, fresher feel to their schools. Many of you know, I'll certainly turn it over to Mr. Sanchez if he'd care to say anything about the new schools that we just opened up. Garcia High School.
I mean, the only thing I would say is, just thank the teams that got it all done, and that includes the school administrations, because, we don't build these schools and then just turn over the keys to the schools. They're actively engaged throughout the entire project to make sure we get it right, and I think we got it right in these two schools.
Yep. And thank you very much, Mr. Sanchez. That's actually a great point. I do want to thank both principals from both schools, because it was truly refreshing to see how actively engaged they are. And it also helps our construction teams and our staff to recognize the efforts, that they can see where this is going towards. If you want to scroll through the next couple slides, see football stadium is now done and CO'd.
I had the opportunity to go visit the school. If you get a chance to go, you should see it. It is beautiful.
Yeah,
This
Garcia High
is the
School.
lobby of the auditorium.
Yeah.
right?
No, that's the entrance into the gym.
Oh, the gym?
Yeah. And you can see the sounding, the acoustics in the auditorium.
Sound baffles.
Okay.
The middle school?
This is West Boynton Middle School, which is directly adjacent to Sunset Palms Elementary School. You can actually see it there in the back there. And I'm truly impressed by this school because it was a tight school, like a tight site. And when working with the principal, we've got so many amenities, such a great campus. It's a 3-story building. The big one to the right, that one right there is a 3-story classroom building. There's a cafeteria, and then there's the arts and music building in the back. And you'll notice there's quite a bit of character in this school. You can see they are the Stingers, the West Boynton Stingers. And it is truly great to see because, I mean, we are catching the wave. We are focusing on bringing kids back to our schools, and this was a brilliant experience. It really, truly does invite the students. The parents loved it when they got to see the school. So if you want to scroll to the next slide, got a picture of the gymnasium. I only could fit the small one. I actually have a wide range of the gymnasium. great experience for the kids. Next two slides, I don't know why it's not fitting on the page all the way, but the buildings, the campus to the left, that's Grove Park modernization. We knocked it down. We're well into construction. And on the right is Malaluca Elementary. Also, they're basically running parallel to each other. These are schools that we're anticipating that we're going to open up this fall. So October, November, we anticipate that these schools will be up and ready. Those photos are a little bit delayed. Oh, there we go. And Ms. Evans, I don't know if do we want to run the videos? Because the first one is a new video that talks about our facility renewals.
Right.
You know, I would like to see Dr. Juan Garcia. I was going to ask that if you've got a video of that, it would be
There
great.
is.
We're hearing so much about it. I'm being offered a tour of it, but if I could see the video, it'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to run it. It's about 30 seconds. It's not very long. I expect at some point there's going to be a longer one.
Yes.
But this is a good snapshot.
And that one will have students in it, you know, appreciating and enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm sorry the sound isn't working. But it is a beautiful campus.
As Dr. Otero, principal. Oh, Mr.
Not the high school I attended.
Ms. Brill, you have a question?
Actually, not a question. I was going to add for Dr. Vinacourt, just so you know that through controlled open enrollment, we've managed to get an additional, I think, a little bit over 200 students into Dr. Joaquin Garcia. If you go there, pop into school food service, say hello to my son Matthew. They're very excited. They're scrambling to keep up now with the extra kids that are at the school. And also for the Alliance of Delray, please reach out to the middle school, or I can coordinate that, because you will be very impressed with what's going on at the West Point Middle School. And it does, I believe there are some students that will be coming in from the Western Delray area, if not this year, next year. And just for all of you to know that this year, the enrollment in the charter school across from, basically on the diagonal across from where the new school is, the West Point Middle School, that charter school has lost over 50% of their sixth grade enrollment. So it's really serving its purpose.
Thank you very much for that. That's our wonderful board member there and Vice Chair, Karen Brill, right? Thank you so much.
The other video is, and this one would be much better with sound, but I'll put this one on too. This is just showing the pictures of the work that was done over the summer. And these are available on our website, and this presentation's out there so you can pull it up. You're going to make it sound work? Okay, let's go back, because I think he's got the sound working. Thank you. Now, I'm going to go back. If you'd like, I can run the high school again. It's 30 seconds.
Can I just say how important it has been to have paint? This has been amazing. I actually have worked in the school district for how many years now? Coming up on 24. I mean, sorry, not 24, 14. And I used to work here, and we didn't have paint ever. We'd never had any way to paint schools, and I couldn't get anything fixed. And going up to the schools now and seeing how clean and bright they look, it just means everything. My principals keep saying, "Look at this, they painted my school over the summer." And I mean, it just means so much. So that video doesn't necessarily do justice to the change in how everybody feels about the schools now.
Let's see.
I'm so proud of this facility. This is our first high school in nearly 20 years, and it could not have turned out more beautiful.
It's a big deal for the students of Palm Beach County to be in a very brand-new school with all the wonderful technology.
There's so much attention to detail, and the classrooms are different than what I experienced in school, where you just see rows and lines of desks. These are more like conversation pits.
It's preparing students for college, it's preparing students for the workforce. Whatever options they want, we want to make sure that as they leave Garcia High School, that they are as ready as they can possibly be.
You know, they've got it all here.
And their first football game is at home. It's scheduled for September 1. So we'll get to see the blue turf that day. Okay.
Question I have, today is the 11-day count, or was it yesterday?
Yesterday.
Yesterday. Maybe at our next meeting, we can get a report on that as to how it's going to affect any future plans that we might have.
In terms of,
In terms of, we've got a major decrease or actually an increase in number of students versus what we thought we might get. Obviously, this group and Cork is planning.
okay,
And-
so we had, I can give you an update on that.
Okay.
We were projecting to have an increase of about 1,000 students. We're at about an increase of 800, so we're very close to our projection. We feel like anything above where we were last year is a win. Our neighboring districts are seeing declining enrollment, and we have really been able to stabilize and maintain our enrollment. And with, just minor increases each year. So, we're definitely in the ballpark, and that is actually even what I budgeted for, was about an increase of 750 students.
Wow.
We are seeing a decline in our charter schools, but charter schools tend to grow through October, so I do expect them to come out about where they were. Vouchers are much higher statewide than what was anticipated. It's about, I don't have the exact number, but I can't recall, but I did the calculation, and it does appear the state had set aside $350 million as a reserve if enrollment ended up over what was projected. And if we look at just vouchers and the increase in vouchers, they would be using up about $250 million of that reserve. So looking at statewide vouchers had much more significant growth than what was anticipated.
Well, but even with that, we've still grown.
We've still grown.
Instead of it pulling away from Palm Beach
Right.
County public schools.
And I do think that maybe charter schools are going to see more of an impact of the vouchers because the parents were choosing to go to charter schools, so now they might choose to go to a private school, versus a district-operated school. So I wonder if the charter schools might be more impacted by that. But also keep in mind with the vouchers as well, these are students that were already in private schools. They're not new students. They're not students they were taking away from us. They were students that were already in private schools. So it is going to take us a few years to actually really determine what the impact is going to be because not all the charter schools are participating right now. Not all the parents are aware. Not all the private schools are participating. They have the option to participate. And I know that the parents are probably pushing back very hard for those schools that are not currently participating in the program. And then what private schools or what new types of schools are going to start popping up? Not traditional private schools, but what else are we going to see in order to try to attract students? Different learning pods and whatnot. So it is going to take I think a few years for it to actually settle off so that we can actually start to be able to trend what the actual increase is going to be. Charter schools have been in place for, in our district 20 years. So we have a very good history as to what we can forecast out. The vouchers are so new, and especially this is the first year of having really a universal voucher program across the state, that it is going to take us some time to determine what the actual growth is going to be.
But I guess the good news over all of that is that we haven't necessarily lost the gigantic chunk we thought we might have lost.
No, and we just didn't know. And
Right.
we did put a lot of, we did put some money and effort into a campaign to let parents know about kindergarten. So it was a kindergarten readiness campaign. You might have heard I saw some commercials on TV, hear radio ads as well. And we definitely saw an increase in the number of kindergartners that were registered, timing-wise within the district. And that is a program that we are definitely going to continue, because once you get them into kindergarten, we hope to be able to keep them for the rest of their career. So that was an initiative this year to help market. The board members have been, very passionate that we do need to market ourselves more, because, we assume that everybody knows what wonderful, amazing programs we offer here. Look at the schools, the new schools that we're building. Not many private schools can actually compete with all of the resources and activities and supplemental programs that we provide. And that's just in addition to the outstanding academic programs and choice programs. And so we just need to make sure that the parents in the community really, truly understand what we have to offer.
Yeah, I think the choice programs and the magnet programs we have, nobody else can compete with that. I mean, nobody else has a Seminole Ridge home building program. It's public school program, so that's the stuff to heavily market.
Right, to just get the awareness out there. And so that's something that the board, challenged us to do. So we did put some additional money into the marketing budget. And we do have to be careful that this is information that we're providing. It's not advertising, it's informational. And it's just making sure that people are aware, and the community is aware of what we provide, what we offer.
Are we doing anything different to make people aware of the changes in the facilities that we have with all these great things? Are we doing anything different to make sure the communities are aware that we do have these type of facilities?
I do believe that they were, this is the first high school we've had in nearly 20 years. So they had, in just one day, they had 6 new news organizations out there, at the school site, interviewing the principal, board members, superintendent. So it was on TV and radio, so they were heavily promoting. The enrollment is, like Ms. Brill mentioned, that, they're working. There's a lot more students that showed up than we were anticipating. So when you have a new high school, especially, you don't offer, 9th through 12th grade, so you have to, we started with fewer grades, but we had just such an outpouring of students, once they saw the facility, wanting to go there.
Yes.
So it ended up, the enrollment ended up being much higher than what we had projected at that school.
Good sale point, seeing it, yes.
And as far as the facility renewals, as far as the sales tax money that we're spending here, obviously, we try to do our best to get out there and market. One of the things that we're really focusing on now a lot more is, of course, our principals know the work that's going on in their school, and they're excited about it. And we're working with them to make sure that when they have their SAC meetings, that's usually one of their updates, that they want to let the parents know, let the grassroots folks know that we're doing those things. They are improving, and they're getting to see those, especially when those SAC meetings are happening in person in the media center, and we've done some work there. Those are definitely having an impact. We're going to continue to try to make sure that happens.
Okay,
I have one thing I wanted to bring up before we move on to the last list of items, the next meetings. At this meeting, we should be electing a chair and vice chair. Last year, this committee wanted to offer the chair position to Mr. Porter. There is a 4-year term limit. You have the ability to have that extended. If the committee would like me to go to the board and ask for the ability to do an extension, we can do that and then bring it back to the committee afterwards. So I wanted to ask, and I probably should have done this at the last meeting. We'll make sure it's calendar to ask you earlier in the year next time. But would you like me to go ahead and get that permission to do that?
So move.
Do we need a motion for that?
Yes, please.
Yes, did somebody say so moved? Then
Mr.
I'll
Rhodes?
second it.
Yes.
Yeah, and again, that is just to ask the board to allow the waiver, not
Right.
necessarily that, you would vote me to remain chair. That's perfectly acceptable.
Right. So I'll go ahead and get that to the
Are
board.
there any objections to that motion? Okay, hearing none, then that motion carries.
All right.
I'll get that to the board, and it will be ready for you for the next meeting, and we'll have our election of chair and
Thank you.
vice chair at that time. Okay, the next meeting is scheduled for November 17th. And then I've got the following dates listed down below. We'll be sending calendar items out for those, probably in the next couple of weeks. You should already have the November item on your calendar. It's just we haven't loaded the 24 items on your calendar yet, but we do have those set. I may shift the August one back 1 week. The August meeting, we try to have everything for the capital plan and the ending expenses for FY '23. It was very tight getting that in here. 1 more week may make a big difference, so I may shift that back 1 more week if the room is available. So I'll let you know at the next meeting.
It also gets it a little further away from the beginning start of school, which is crazy for everybody.
Yes.
I have it for 11 a.m. The meeting,
Oh, for the next meeting?
November 17th,
November 17th is 11 a.m.
11 a.m.
Yes.
Okay.
11 a.m.?
Yes.
Thank
For that meeting, we have an audit committee meeting, then IROC, and then ISOC. So that note needs to be added on there. The other ones are all at 9:30.
Okay, anything else by anyone? All right, then, thank you. We are adjourned.
Thank you all very much.
Oh, could you put those dates up there?
Sure.
again? Thank you.